Welcome to the HuntLeague podcast, where we share hunting stories from the field that help pave the way for others to follow.
I distinctly remember he said, if you shoot that elk, and he was dead serious, he goes, you are on your own. I'm not helping you.
This is your host, Jared Newman. Let's get started. All right, welcome to the HuntLeague podcast. I am super excited to have Brad Brooks, the founder, owner of Argali, joining us today. Brad, I invited you to do this several weeks ago. I'm glad that our schedules finally aligned where we could jump on together. But for the sake of all the listeners here and people watching on YouTube, go ahead and just give us a quick intro. Tell us a little about who you are and what you're about.
Jared, it's good to see you. I always enjoy chatting with you. I founder, owner of Argali. We're a backcountry hunting gear and equipment company based out of Boise, Idaho. That's kind of the short version of it. So, yeah.
and that's not just who you are. You are married. We were just talking about kids. I've got a kid graduating high school this week. Tell me a little about family background there.
Yeah, I've dad. I got two young girls. I got a lot of things going on. I'm a unofficial chauffeur of my kids to soccer practice, occasional soccer coach. I'm a amateur chef to my kids. I feel like, all the things. Yeah, it's like family life. I've got in addition to business life, like lots going on. I'm very avid hunter and outdoorsman. I love, rock climbing and hunting are my two big passions in life. And trying to spend as much time as I can doing all the things, enjoying life, being a dad, which I really enjoy, even through the fun and the frustration of what that looks like, and also enjoy this brand, this company that me and our incredible team have helped to build over the years.
Yeah, it's definitely something special. I met you recently in person for the first time. We've talked a couple times, done a couple videos together through the years, but just met you at the Western Hunt Expo out in Salt Lake. It's like when you meet somebody for the first time, it's like, oh, Brad's taller than I thought he was. And, you're fit. You said rock climbing. I'm like, oh yeah, rock climbing. I never would have put that together, but I'm like, yeah, you have the body of a rock climbing guru guy, like tall, lanky, strong. So did you grow up as an athlete? Did you play sports? I mean, you said soccer coach. What kind of sports did you grow up playing?
I like to describe myself as one of those people that was like pretty good at every sport that I played, but not like the best necessarily at anything I played. So like I can pick up anything that involves like a ball and a stick or a ball. Usually I can pick it up pretty fast. So I played soccer all through college, and that was really fun. I played like high school football a little bit. Like I was the kicker on the soccer team. I distinctly remember my football coach, I was a kicker on the football team. And I distinctly remember my football coach at the time being like, we need to get you to be a tight end or a cornerback. That's what it was. And I was just like, I just don't love this sport that much. Like I'm fine kicking field goals and kickoffs, but like soccer's my sport. So yeah, I played all sorts of things. I was a competitive mountain bike racer right out of college, after college. And then I got into climbing as well. And climbing has really been a really nice balance for me with hunting. It's kind of the yin to my yang, where it's like I spend so much time hunting, and there's a point at which I get to every single year where I'm like, okay, I have slept on the ground enough for this fall. Like I'm ready to just not be sleeping on the ground, or I'm just done being cold all the time, or whatever that is. Right.
I know that feeling. I need a little bit of a break. I know that feeling.
Yeah. And I need a break, and then I will come back to it. And climbing is that nice balance where it's like, there's a lot of crossover. We actually, we made a film about this, my two sort of passions for these two things, but there's a lot of crossover in terms of like the mental tenacity that climbing requires, the way in which you have to learn to deal with fear. It translates into and learn to control your emotions, translates into hunting quite well. But when you think about them, they seem as though they are these disparate endeavors, but there's more crossover than you might realize. And I would say that the really interesting thing we made this film called Run Out about these two passions of mine. The number of people that reached out to me who are really into bow hunting and really into rock climbing was surprising to me. People from some of the big climbing gear companies out there reached out to me and were like, hey, we've met or we've never met, but like, I just wanted you to know, like, I also am a big bow hunter and I love rock climbing. So it's a small niche world, but there is like a very, there is an audience out there for it.
So I've been discussing this with a couple buddies. Like, I've got 2 guys coming in from Oregon. We're going with 3 previous league winners from the HuntLeague app. We've got an Outdoorsman of the Year, a Western Hunter, and a Deer of the Year winner that are all coming out. We're going to hunt elk in this specific spot where every year you can glass up elk, but they're in these, like, I mean, it's like crazy. They're like in these cliffs, and it's like, how do you hunt them? Like, and we've talked more about climbing gear and do we top rope in? Like, what if you shoot one in this section? Like, how do you get it out?
How do you wrap in? Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, well, if an elk got in there, there has to be a way in. And so that's like the discussion that we've been having. It's like, well, we're going to have to scout that out and find it. But kind of funny that cross intersection between some of those worlds.
Oh yeah, and I still do a lot of those things, right? Like I still climbing a mountain. I'm fortunate to live right up against the foothills in Boise. I mountain bike or run this time of year, probably 3 days a week, and then I climb a couple days a week. So it's been a really good. As I get older now, I'm 42. Like climbing has become also more than just a thing that I do. It's also become a way to stay like fit and active.
Yep.
Most of the people I climb with are in their 20s. They're half my age. And I love that about it. It's like we're in very different places in life, but like those are the people that I spend a lot of time with. That's not all the people I climb with, but yeah, it certainly keeps you feeling a bit younger and more active, which I appreciate about climbing now at this point in my life.
Yep, I can certainly appreciate that. I'm just a couple years ahead of you, and I feel that same kind of push. Like, I want to stay active. I want to get out there. And there's a lot of guys that I'll take, whether it's turkey hunting, elk hunting,
Yeah,
a lot of 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, that kind of thing that help keep me young. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about your hunt history. I mean, when did hunting really enter your life? I mean, did you grow up in a hunting family? Were you always in Boise? I mean, I got all sorts of questions about that background. So you played sports. You talked about football. Football and hunting are often kind of at war with each other. So
yeah, they are.
Tell me your intro into it.
Yeah, I absolutely grew up in a hunting and outdoors family. My dad is from Wisconsin, and so a lot of what I did as a kid, like big game was a part of what we did, but not, it was like we would hunt big game for a week a year. Most of our hunting was bird hunting. So specifically like waterfowl and upland, we spent an inordinate amount of time doing that. And then summers were fishing, fly fishing primarily all over the West, a lot in Idaho. I learned how to row a drift boat at a young age. I learned how to shoot a shotgun when I was really young. My grandfather was a competitive skeet shooter. So at the age of 8, I would spend all day at the skeet range shooting skeet. I'd come home with a black and blue shoulder. So a lot of wing shooting, a lot of shotgun shooting, and big game, again, was like a small part of what we did. And then as I, it was hard growing up playing soccer in the fall. Sometimes I've had weekends free, but later in the year, especially when the duck hunting gets good in Idaho, like I could hunt quite a bit. We'd go every single weekend after soccer was over, but you're right. It was limited. And then even through college, I was busy every single weekend in the fall until we got through our postseason playoffs. And then at that point in time, I'd have a little bit of time, but I wasn't able to hunt a lot during college. But it was my senior year in college where I was like winding down. I'm like, I'm not going to be a professional soccer player. That's not what I want to do. I'm not good enough to really be like at a high level. Probably could have played some like small league ball professional, but like, I'm not good enough. This is not my career path. And I was like, I really, really, really want to hunt a lot. And so I can remember thinking like, this is what I want to do. And I got a job with the Forest Service as a seasonal job, spending a bunch of time in the mountains doing fish research on bull trout. So I would get paid to hike all over the mountains of central Idaho. And it was a fantastic job. It was incredibly difficult job. I would pack around I packed around a car. So we were shocking streams. I would pack around a car battery to power the fish shocker, along with 2 sets of rubber waders. We had nets, we had all this gear we had to pack around. But it was incredible because like everywhere we were going, I was getting, it was essentially like scouting, right? I got to scout all this incredible country for elk and deer in a way that like scouting wasn't something I grew up doing. Like I didn't know anybody that scouted. Like
Yeah.
0 people I knew scouted for deer and elk. 0. I didn't even know it was a thing other people did. This is like what year? This
Yeah.
would have been 2005. Okay. So like I wasn't aware of an online community that where people talked about hunting, big game hunting.
You
Like
weren't
I didn't
on
know.
the MySpace Outdoors back then?
Yeah, exactly. MySpace probably was a MySpace Outdoors. But you know, like I don't even know if Rock Slide existed. I didn't know
I
anybody
don't
that
think so.
backpack hunted. But I remember that first year that I was out of college, I convinced a buddy of mine. I was like, "Let's go on a backpack hunt." I've always liked backpacking, and I like to hunt, but I want to get away from people. Just totally happened naturally. Like I didn't like watch a film with somebody doing it. I didn't know anybody that did it. Like for several years, I knew 0 people that backpack hunted other than me and a couple of buddies that I had. That's it. There was no community, and
My,
that's,
how things have changed.
I know, right? I know. Now it's just like everybody backpack hunts, but at the time, it was just something I did because I wanted to get away from people, and that was what really started me down the path of being like, this is what I love about hunting, and I just went down, I went deep, and that was probably 20 years ago. And ever since then, it's kind of consumed my life. And I still bird hunt a lot. I have a poodle pointer, but that's like I bird hunt for like mostly chucker, a little bit of pheasant. That's after big game season is over and in between big game hunts primarily.
And when do you
So
do your rock climbing?
yeah, in the evenings during the week, and the fall for me is really, I don't climb a whole lot. I just try and maintain my fitness as much as I can. It's very difficult because like, for example, like this year, I'm going to be in Alaska for like 2-week stretch at a time. You can't train when you're in Alaska for 2
Yeah.
weeks. And the level that I'm trying to do with climbing is it requires 2 to 3 days a week of work and effort to try and
Wow.
maintain the fitness that I need. And I'm okay with it. Like it's a great balance. Like I love hunting so much that I don't care. And in the spring and early summer, that's the time that I really focus on climbing and, do everything I can to do the things I want to do climbing wise.
I think actually my first introduction to Argali had nothing to do with an Argali product or store or anything. It was watching a video.
Mm-hmm.
This is several years ago. I don't know if it's 8 years ago or something like that. I probably watched a YouTube video. As far as backcountry hunting and exposing people to that world, I feel like you were one of the first people that I saw doing that, like on video. So how did that process start? Because I mean, you started this in the early to mid 2000s. It sounds like. I think for me it was probably 2007 or 2008 when I did my first, backpacked in about 7 miles, and I knew nothing. I mean, literally,
I knew nothing.
Nothing about what we were doing. I was just like, man, I am in the middle of nowhere.
You had to figure it out. There was no
Yeah.
resource. There were no gear lists. There were no podcasts.
Yeah,
None of
I
this
had
existed.
an old Garmin that didn't connect to anything other than that, and
Yes,
if the batteries were
absolutely.
dead on it,
Was it one of the yellow Garmins?
the E-Trex.
The E-Trex.
I think he had a brown one, and I think I had the
Okay.
yellow one. His
I
brown
had
one
the
was a
yellow
little
one.
nicer than mine.
Yeah, so we probably have a lot of parallels. It's so funny. Like I'll say this just as an aside that I appreciate that there was no information because I don't think Argali would exist today if I didn't have to struggle through figuring out all this backpacking gear stuff. Like the learning that happened during those years is what made me who I am today. And I had to struggle and figure things out myself. And yeah, I learned so much through that process, and that has translated into everything we do and everything we make today, in a lot of different ways. But so it was to answer your question. It was 2015 was the first film, the year we made our first film. There was no intent to have a company. We just wanted to tell interesting stories about the value of wild places to hunting, and that was really all our intent was at the time. So that led to making one film. And it did feel different back then. Like 2015 was 10 years ago. It's not that long ago, right? But it felt different. Like there were not a lot of people that were doing that. There was Meat Eater. And that was kind of, and sorry, I would say like Remy was out there.
I didn't know Meat Eater then. I think the Argali stuff was like one of the first things that I'd seen. And it was like, that's what I do. Like, it's like, that's what I do. Like I do that in the woods, but nobody else showed it. And it's like, and who brings a camera? And how would you even film something like that? So.
Oh, dude, so hard. Yeah. Well, I that really appreciate hearing that, because the reason we made that first film was largely because like I felt like I couldn't relate to all the hunting media out there. The TV shows
Yep.
were just not any, I couldn't even relate to any of it. It's like I'm on this private piece of ground. I'm like, who's got money for that? Like, I don't have money I can't afford to hunt on, like pay somebody, whatever. Like,
Yep.
I just like, it had nothing. It was like, man, I'm just going out with my buddies. We're going out like backpacking into remote places to have a good time, experience country. And we wanted to capture that. And I mean, the gear we used at the time is just comical because again,
bro.
10 years ago, but I mean, you're talking about like 100-pound packs,
Yeah.
just like all the stuff is just like, it was a lot of work and effort.
I would love to even dive into that at some point. Like, and I know we're not going to have time in this episode because I just think about all the heavy, I mean, when we first started, it's like we had this MSR 4-season tent and we're hunting in September. Totally. And I think it was like 9 or 12 pounds. I brought in canned food because that's what I thought you ate in the backcountry. Because I would find old cans back there, and I was like, I don't know, you eat canned chili,
that's
and
what
you
eat do.
Canned, like,
that's what you
tuna. Do. And like, oh my gosh, how things have changed.
Oh, I remember my first backpacking tent. I bought it at REI. It was a North Face, I think Cumulus or Nimbus Cloud. It was a 3-person cloud tent, I think, and it weighed 7.5 pounds. Yeah, which is comical
in that day.
I thought it was top tier, man. It was top shelf. It was lightweight. I was like, I am doing the thing right now. I'm living the backcountry life. I'm living the lightweight life.
And you spent half your annual salary to buy that tent.
Dude, all I did at the time, I was in high school when I bought that tent. It was like all the money I had went to like backpacking gear because I wanted a backpack so bad at the time. So anyways, but yeah, so like just like we started with that storytelling element and just wanting to tell stories that I thought were more relatable to people that were doing what we were doing. I didn't know how many people out there that were actually doing that thing, right? It was hard for me because you put a video out on the internet, you don't know who's watching it.
Yeah.
But anecdotally, we would hear things and it's like, oh man, there is this community of people out there that do appreciate hunting in a very different way than the hunting media, traditional hunting media is portraying it, which is, very formulaic. There's this TV format that is just like, again, like totally unrelatable. A lot of it's whitetail hunting and I love whitetail hunting too, but it's different than what we do out West. And it's like the adventure to me is the story. And that's what we tried to do from the outset is like the adventure is the hunt. The killing of the thing, that's always part of it, but that is not the main focus for most people when you go hunting. I think it's like, it's the whole thing. It's the preparation. It's the going into wherever you're going. It's hanging out with your friends, your family. It's experiencing the wildness of the place. Like all those things are so important to the experience. And yet most media didn't show that.
Yeah. Well, because I think in that time, I mean, you got to go like, I don't know if late 90s is when I think you started to see some of those. I don't know timelines on this, but I'm like late 90s. Was it like, is that when like a lot of the Primos videos and those whitetail stuff? And then you have the Outdoor Channel, you have all these things kind of booming. When I moved to Colorado, which was 2005, like none of that world like applied to me in any way. And all I wanted was the adventure. It had nothing to do with even like, of course you're out there trying to fill a tag, but like the experience, I mean, it had like at the end of it, I left with zero disappointment. I mean, obviously you have, I can't say zero disappointment, but like I could walk away without filling my tag and be like, that was the best week of my life. That was the most incredible experience I've ever had in the woods. And I love that that's what you captured. Like, I don't know if it was last year's, I don't know if it was an elk hunt or what you filmed last year, but I think I watched it, and I don't know if that was last year or the year before, but I don't think you filled a tag. Am I? I don't want to.
Oh yeah, that was not. Sorry, that would have been 2 years ago. Not last fall, 2024, but 2023. Yeah, that was a super frustrating hunt, man. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead. A Mountain of Effort, I think is the film.
A Mountain of Effort, that is. And that's the one that I watched. And I just remember seeing it, and I'm like, man, I identify so much with it. And I'm not in it watching because I care to see you harvest a 6x6 or 7x7
Yeah.
giant. Like,
Yeah.
to me, it is the process. I mean, that's what the HuntLeague app is about. It's capturing the story of everything that goes into the
Absolutely.
season. I mean, it's from the scouting days to the training days. It's everything that goes into it, because that's what I'm passionate about. It's that journey. And
Sure. Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I mean, you guys as a brand, Argali, I didn't realize that you were cranking out those videos before there was ever even a product to offer. So
Yeah.
help me. Let's transition into this. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
when did Argali go from, or when was Argali a thing? Like, what was it called Argali when you created the film? Was Argali birthed when you started selling something? Like, what is the backstory there?
Yeah, so great question. Let me start by saying, like, our mission today is to inspire adventure and exploration by making world class backcountry gear. When we started making these films, there was no brand, there was no intent to have a company. When I was getting my graduate degree in business in like 2010, I actually started a company called Argali, which was originally intended to be a clothing company, like a technical clothing hunting gear company. Because at
Okay.
the time, there was, other than Sitka being like barely
Yeah.
a thing, there was nobody else.
I went to the Army
Um,
surplus and bought my first camo stuff for Western hunting. Like, there
yeah,
wasn't anything out here.
yeah. There, and so I tried to start a clothing company with no money and really no experience, and quickly found out that like you need some money to start a clothing company. But unfortunately for me, like I don't have like a rich family situation where I could be like, hey, Dad, can I borrow some money? So I kind of abandoned it, and then when we started getting, these films, and people were asking me like a fair number of questions just about like, well, what are you using? Why are you using it? And I realized like, okay, I think there could be a business here where there seems to be like people, at least some people, not everybody, but some people seem to care about what gear I'm using on these films. And so that was what spawned. I was like, okay, well, let's create a retail store, a curated online retail store. We only sell the gear that we use in our
Yeah.
content. Nothing more sophisticated than that. And
Yep.
that's what I did. I figured out, I taught myself how to, use Shopify, and I built the back end of a website with no experience or no business doing that. And it actually worked pretty well right out the gate. But I had also started designing some of my own products at the time. Our first product was game bags. And the story of our product line is that we have always known our why, and I have always tried to design products that are solving problems that I have encountered in the field through my own experience, and hoped that those are problems, or trusted those are problems that other people that are doing what we're doing are experiencing. Again, keep in mind that like 2015, like I don't even know that many people that backpack hunt still, right? It's
Yeah.
not a real common thing. So I designed game bags. Game bags were the first technical product that we designed at the time. There really weren't any technical game bags in existence. There were some like decent game bags, but most of what I was using were these cheap products. Most of the lightest weight products were not very well built. Built some game bags, and sold them, and we sold out in like 2.5 weeks of like a pretty small run of game bags. And I was like, I hate this retail thing. I don't, because being a retailer was not, I'm like, why am I a retailer? I don't want to do this. Like, I really enjoy designing product and making product, and that's what fills my cup. I really enjoy that. So I'm like, let's just get rid of this whole retail thing. And so, at some point we just axed that. We turned off the retail business after 1 year, which was actually a relatively hard decision, because we were cutting
Because
off
there
a
was
bunch of
some revenue
income.
coming in from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And then we just decided to make our own product. At the time, I had 2 sets of game bags and 1 knife. So we had essentially three products that we were making. And we made more money in that first year than we did in the prior year. Excuse me. We had a year and a half we had as being a retailer.
So wait,
And
what year is this? Where are we at
this
in our
is like
timeline?
2017,
Okay.
2018, right in there.
So the knife that you created then is in 2017-ish. Was that the Sarek? Was that your first
Carbon,
knife?
a carbon.
Okay.
Still, dude, that thing still has like a cult following in circles. So, and I still love that knife. But yeah, that was the
Yeah.
first knife I designed. And so yeah, so we're still making content and making product, and so the content it has always been a mission driven thing for us, where we've always been very clear about our why as a brand. And so the content, I've never looked at content as like, how is this going to help us sell a product? To me, it is a part of our ethos. It's a part of who we are. And we tell stories that align with our mission as a brand and a company, whatever that looks like. That's about the time that we made our most popular film series is the series we did called The Last Wild Places. And we did a film about the Frank Church Wilderness in Idaho.
Wilderness. I remember it.
That film has been out since 2017. Okay.
Yeah.
I still to this day, as of last night, am getting messages, emails from people about that film who are like, that film moved me. It's been out for a while. It's not new.
Yeah.
And
like
yet
this is coming up on 10 years and people are still discovering it, watching it.
Yeah. And it had nothing to do with selling anything. Zero. That was not our intent. Honest to God, that was not what we were trying to do with it. It was just, we have always thought that like helping people understand the value of having the opportunity for adventure hunts is really important to the future of hunting. I firmly believe that. And that cuts through our ethos and our core values as a brand. We make gear that helps you do that thing, but more importantly than that, like we believe that that's an opportunity that we need to preserve for future generations. I want people to be able to find their own adventure. You have to have those places to do that. And so that is why we made that film. And I think if you watch some of our content pieces, like you can tell, like, this is not just like, we're not just trying to make content to try and like drive traffic to our website. I hope people understand that. Like, we love this stuff. Like, this is bigger than that for us. This is more important for us than just like selling a thing.
100%. When you teach people to value something, people protect it. If somebody doesn't know how to value wilderness and expansive space, all they think about, well, there's no value there, so why don't we create value? And that's what we're dealing with across all the Western states right now. People wanting to sell off big tracts of public land because it's like, well, we can make money on it. I think why those films are so important is because you're helping assign value to people that are watching it. And then once they have that and taste that and get to experience that, and obviously you can experience just this much of it on a film, and that's where it's like, no, get your boots on the ground and go out and experience this and chase this, because it changes something in you. But once you can get people to really value it at that high level, I think we'll have more and more people willing to protect it and stand up for it, vote for it. I think it's critical to preserving it for the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just talking to my good friend Ryan, who works over at Meat Eater, about this very topic this morning, and about how, like, well, I'll have more to talk about this here soon, but we should say, are working on organizing businesses in the hunt space specifically to speak out on this public lands issue going on right now, because it is so core to our future as a brand, as brands, and also just like it's important to me personally, right? Some of the most rewarding things that have happened to me in this like somewhat accidental life that I've sort of created for myself is people that have been inspired by something that we've done in some small way, and have taken the time to be like, hey, just so you know, I watched that thing that you did, and then I wanted to go hang out with, I asked my dad and my brother, we took a big trip. Like, let's say they were from way out of state. Usually, sometimes it's in the Midwest. I can specifically remember somebody from Wisconsin telling me this, and they came out to Idaho and had this experience in Idaho that they had only dreamt about. And it was like one of the things I think that helps push them to actually like make it a priority.
Yeah.
Those stories, I love hearing that, because we only get so much time on this earth, and how you spend your time is so important. And a lot of, if you're a hunter out there, it's like, and you love it, it's like, man, there's just like so many things I could do. I want to go to Alaska. I want to go to Idaho. I want to go to Colorado. I want to, whatever. But taking the time, paying for it, it's hard to do with, you got life, kids. And so, but when you do it, you're like, I should say, I would bet that nobody's going to regret it. You'll never regret those like experiences that you have in life if it's a priority for you. And so just having a small role, I feel like, in helping other people find their own adventure has just been incredibly rewarding. And it has nothing to do with selling gear, like zero.
I totally understand that. The way that you kind of talk about a film or something inspiring, a family or a group of hunters to come out and kind of chase one of those adventures. One of the things that I love inside the app is, people will create a hunt log, and like you can share a hunt log on the community page. Now,
So
a
cool.
hunt log will have GPS information, all this other stuff. When you share it to the community page, there's no GPS because it's not about like where
Right,
specifically
right,
did
right,
this happen and
right.
all that. Um, but when people share it on the community page, the reason why that stuff is important is there's so many little details that go into a hunt that can be intimidating. Like if I wanted to go do a sheep hunt or a caribou hunt in Alaska, something that I've never done before, when I have the opportunity to read somebody's hunt log where it shows like, well, what time of day did they wake up and
Yeah,
start hiking, and what
yeah,
did they see, and what was the steps, how many miles a day were they covering? When you start getting a better picture of that, you start taking things that once really seemed like impossible because there's just too many questions. I wouldn't know where to
yes.
start. I don't know how to do this. But like just by reading somebody's journal entries and like story of their day, and like what was some of the equipment that you see in the pictures that they listed for, whether it's on their bow, on the rifle, whatever, those things take things that were once impossible and make them possible.
Oh
And
yeah.
I love that we have the ability to like inspire people through film and storytelling. You and I probably grew up reading the story of like Western frontiersmen, and whether it was,
Oh yeah.
even it doesn't even have to be Western. You can go down to Kentucky and Daniel Boone and the stories of like those things. You're just like, oh my gosh, those are the things that inspired that wilderness adventure in me as a
I
child.
Yeah, I think that what you created is like a community that hopefully through HuntLeague, Jared, is like a community of people that hopefully like it can create that inspiration for people to go do things that they may not otherwise prioritize in their life, which is super cool. It is like a modern day version of which, we can get inspired in lots of ways, or I can, right? I can watch a film, I can read a book, like reading the old Jack O'Connor
Yes.
books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Jack O'Connor.
Yeah, Jack O'Connor books, just or the Fred Bear stories about like, anyway, all those things are just super, super inspiring to me. It's like, man, that gets me going. But for other people, it might be like, hearing about somebody else's story, or it might just be like, a story that you guys get to, a family or a group of friends get to reshare with each other. But I do think that community is an incredibly important part of hunting in our hunting world today. That I will admit that sometimes I forget how important the community is to what we do, and how much enjoyment we can get together by just sort of celebrating all the things that we do related to hunting.
Well, I know you don't make those films in order to sell products, but out of this desire to like chase backcountry hunts and do these adventures, there is a necessity for the evolution of products and the evolution of backcountry hunting. And
Yeah.
like I know that you're in the process of that daily. So talk to me a little bit about how Argali has evolved. You kind of gave me the opening
Yeah.
statement, like we made some films and then we created a retail space.
Yeah.
Then we created game bags, which I completely remember carrying these giant, I mean, I could probably pull some out from right behind me that are still
Yeah.
in bags that are heavy, that are big, and when you open them up, they were stretchy and had enough holes where flies could still get to them and dirt could still get in. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't really even know what these did and why I even carried them now that I look back. But I mean, talk to you about the evolution from game bags to a knife. Now, I mean, when I was at the Western Hunt Expo and just saw your booth, I was like, are you kidding me? I just bought a really expensive sleeping bag last year. I just bought this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you've got sleeping
Yeah.
bags, you've got tents, you've got tarps, you've got like, I think 3 years ago I did my first hot tent
Hot
or
tent. You
whatever.
have stove. Yeah. Stoves. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't own it, but a guy invited me and I was like, well, I'm more of an archery guy. That's never been something I've cared about. Well, we went on his second or third season rifle. We were sleeping on 8 inches of snow in a teepee that had no floor. So it was like, all right, we're
Right.
sleeping on snow and we have this hot tent. It was crazy. And I'd never experienced that. And then I see like, all right, you guys jumped into that world a couple years ago. So talk to me about the evolution from game bags to where you're at
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a long. I'd say that there's a short and a long story there, but I'd say the through line for us and for me is really understanding why we exist, right? So I mentioned earlier, like what is our mission, and why do we exist? And we've always I've always had a very clear sense of that. So I think from the outside, it might look like, well, you guys are in a lot of different categories. And it's like, yes, this is true. Each of these product categories, though, is very intentional, and we did it for a reason. So it started with game bags because I felt like we were solving a problem that existed, which is like lightweight, reusable, full of features that were really appropriate for backcountry hunters, high quality paracord so you could retie a D-loop, or reflective materials, all that things, right? A do-it-all knife for backcountry hunters. There's a bazillion knives out there. Most of them, I didn't feel like there was a knife for me. And that's why I made that first knife. And then we got into, so we've been like very intentionally doing like one category at a time, where we feel like, yes, there's real value that we feel like we can provide with this product category. And it's been very humbling to get the feedback from customers that they feel the same way, or at least our customers do feel the same way. So like, let's take tents, for example. It's like, there are a lot of great tents out there. But I felt very strongly that there were some designs and fabric choices that a lot of companies were making that I wholeheartedly disagreed with. If you just looked at like, what do you want? What do you need to perform in the backcountry? And that was the catalyst for us really leaning into using a polyester-based fabric for our tents. We are swimming upstream using polyester. There has been, and what I mean by that is like, there's a reason we use polyester. Largely has to do with sag, tent sag. And yet there has been like a very concerted effort in the backpacking world to sort of demonize polyester as an inferior fabric. And for us, it's like I see our job as trying to solve real world problems backcountry hunters face. And so it would have been an easier choice for us as a brand to say, well, let's just go with a type of fabric that most people already understand is like pretty good, and we'll just like gloss over the downsides. That has never been our ethos. We've always tried to explain the why behind everything we do, and with the hope that people will understand the design choices we made, because there is a reason for every single one we make. And so, yeah, we started with like a couple tents, a 2 and a 4 person, and we've expanded from there. At the same time, I was also working on all of our products have been born quite literally on trips while I'm hunting. I had the idea for our trekking poles and our patented grip adapt handle on a hunt in November using a set of trekking poles. I couldn't get flown out because of a bush flight delay in the weather. So I always keep a notepad with me, drew out the design, all the feature set. The day I got back, hired an engineer and went to work on the design. In 2 weeks, I had a tech pack. I was working on prototypes in 2 weeks. Like, that's how fast. So like when
you went from the field to a product.
I did. And the easy way I can describe it is like, when I feel a strong conviction about like, this is a good idea and this fits our ethos, this fits our brand, this is going to solve a problem. Like, we just do it. And we try to do it as, and then we have to do a lot of like R&D testing and all that, but you just got to like push forward down that path. And at least we have anyway.
Okay.
And
well,
really,
speaking of that trekking pole, like right there, like just taking that example, I just made a video about like a glassing system and like what I'm planning to carry in the field. And I'm doing all this research. I've got a shelf full of tripods, and it's not like I need more tripods. I own several trekking poles, all those things. But then you start looking for the nuances of like how things work together, how things can either be multi-purpose, how things can be lighter weight, stronger, more resilient, all the different things. And at the end of my process, I was like, all right, here's what I think I've got to go into this fall. And like the Argali trekking poles, like, and it's not because I don't have trekking poles, but it's like, why can't you just use the trekking poles you have that you already spent money on? Well, it's because the little adapter that you have built into the handle, it's like, well, that's going to allow me to attach a camera to be a monopod, because then I can use the tripod as either a shooting position rest or something like that. But, or I can flip it and now I can connect it to that Wiser Precision glassing thing. And you've got this whole system where I'm like, okay, that's why I need this. And I have a scale, this like a food scale, because that's what measures in the lowest ounces.
Tenths of an ounce, 100%.
So I'm like measuring stuff like that, and then looking at your website and going like, okay, this is what I need for the fall. And it's your trekking poles that you designed on one of these hunts. And it's because like it serves these functions that are actual needs that backcountry hunters face And I know that like coming up this fall, I've got that hunt where we're going to go into that cliffy area that I had mentioned to you
Uh-huh.
before. And it's like, well, what do I need? What are the solutions? What are the things that I want to bring with me? And it's going to be a set of those Argali poles because of the feature sets that you built into a set of trekking poles, which sounds like such a simple thing.
Yeah, it does.
But you have
It
some
does.
nuances.
Nuances, and the other thing I'd say too is like even things like thinking about the construction and thickness of the carbon fiber tubing, because not all carbon fiber is created equally. You can buy a cheap set of trekking poles from Costco, and they're going to be thin walled. They're going to work just fine until they don't. And I always tell people this. I'm like, you don't realize as a consumer, you're not measuring the thickness of the walls of your tubing and your carbon fiber, but there are differences. The way you can make cheap poles by making them super thin, they'll work fine until you actually needed them work, which is like when you're packing out an animal and you plant your pole in a not less than ideal position and it snaps. That's when you're going to know if you got a good pole right then. Before that, you won't even know the difference because it's like you're not really testing it. I think probably the most innovative product we make is our Kodiak belt, which is our belt buckle knife sharpener too. And so, anyways, it's like I've always tried to like figure out like how do we create like simple, effective, functional products, either multi-use or that are solving real world problems. I think that everything we've designed does that quite well. If I'm allowed to say that. Yeah. And so it's been a journey, man. We've done like, it's been a relatively slow progression in my eyes, but I think in other people's eyes, it's like, man, you had game bags and now you've got all this stuff. We've got tents, we have titanium wood stoves, you've got sleeping bags, and yeah, and we're just getting warmed up in some ways too. So, it's been a fun progression, but I'll also say like, it's difficult making things, right? So like, there's been a lot of trial and error and learning and doing things the wrong way and like all that stuff.
A lot of your Argali products have been born and birthed out of necessity and things that you've experienced in the field. A lot of that comes from failure, though. Like it's like either
Yes.
equipment has failed or you've seen gaps in things. And I know a lot of times what I think stokes the fire inside of me more than even success is failure. What are some of the failures that you've experienced that have really shaped who you are and shaped Argali?
Oh man, no, I'm not too, my ego is squarely intact. So I am not afraid to admit like, man, just so many failures along the way, both in terms of like, just from a gear standpoint, but also just difficulty, right? Just like doing things. You're like, why am I doing this right now? There's got to be a better way. So I can think of, so let me tell you, like the first backpack hunt I ever went on had a massive impact on me. Right out of college, went with a buddy. We went into the Frank Church Wilderness, not super far, but just like cans of food, heavy pack, heavy tent, like just all the things. I had a stove that was like borrowed. It was a MSR like white gas stove, and like the valve was clogged, so we couldn't actually get a flame going. So we had to build fires to heat things up. Dude, all the things you can think of
Yes.
that would go wrong, like did go wrong. We were on an elk hunt. I saw one bull elk, and I wanted to go shoot it. It was a ways away. I wanted to at least try to shoot it. My buddy looked at me. He was just worn out. He's a cowboy. He's a horse guy, and we were backpacking. Right. I distinctly remember he said, "If you shoot that elk," and he was dead serious. He goes, "You are on your own. I'm not helping you." And so we left with like, I didn't even actually make a serious play on an animal. I felt like all we did was just struggle to survive, let alone actually hunt. There was very little hunting. And so like lessons I learned from that was like, make sure your gear is simple and works well before you go into the field. Also, like the amount of weight on your back is a direct reflection of how much effort you want to put out, right? So the next time I went on a backpack hunt, I got lighter, but I still realized like, man, I'm struggling just with weight, right? Like the weight on my back, it saps my motivation. And so like weight does matter. There's a
Yeah.
point at which weight is, you can go too far to where you start sacrificing functionality of your gear in
Yep.
order to just go lower weight.
Yeah.
Like
I've
for
been on
example,
that journey, and then I don't sleep for a week, and I'm like, I'm gonna start carrying heavier sleep
totally.
gear because it's not
I,
worth it.
I was just going to talk about that. So like, let's talk about one of my favorite failures is another hunt in the winter in the Frank Church Wilderness where I was trying to be a quilt person because its quilts are so much lighter. And we had honest 0-degree weather, and I had a 0-degree quilt. with all my down layers on, pants, all my layers on.
Oh
And
my
I shivered
gosh.
through the night for multiple nights in a row because we were backpacking. And I was so miserable. It was so dang cold. And I was like, this is insane. Like quilts are not meant. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of people that love quilts, but for most people, if you actually try and use a quilt in cold temperatures, like good luck to you. I have done it multiple times. And I'm a slow learner. So we had a pretty good hunt, but it was miserable. The next year, I'm like, you know what I need is a warmer quilt. That was my problem, and a better attachment system so I don't get as much
As
drafting.
much
Well,
draft.
yeah, same issue. I had the next year anyways. And just like, you just suffer enough to where you're like, when you don't get quality sleep, it affects the way you hunt. It affects
Mm-hmm.
your mental aptitude. It affects your physical abilities, which is why we don't make a quilt right now, but our bags are rated for honest temperature rating. They're super warm for what they are. They use a super high quality down. It would have been easy to try and make like a cheaper bag with lower quality down, not make the honest temperature ratings. That would have been easy to do. But I think that sleep is so important to hunting that like I would rather carry just a hair more weight and actually get some sleep and actually not be cold during the night, that it's totally worth it. And when we started making sleeping bags, there was no intent to make a pillow. We were just trying to make a universal attachment system for pillows in the hood of our sleeping bag. We realized there's so much variety in pillows
Yeah.
that we couldn't do that. So then it led down this whole journey of, well, what is the ideal backpacking pillow that we can make then? And because I hate inflatable pillows, I think
Yeah.
they're one of the worst ideas in the backpacking world in our time. And I wish they would all just disappear because they suck.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say, I love my inflatable pillow. I'm
This
sure
is the
people out
best
there love them.
inflatable.
So we made this pillow that's designed to be stuffed. It has enough cushion and it attaches inside the hood of the sleeping bag. Small
So it's
thing.
not moving around.
It's not
Yep.
moving around, but like not something that I know of other backpacking sleeping bag companies doing. So anyways, just like that's how, like, suffering on a trip does, it influences the design choices we make. I value the honesty, the honest relationship we have with our customers, and that when we make something, I want you to know that I am making the best damn thing I possibly can for you based on what I have experienced in my suffering, because I don't want you to have to go through that. And I really value that trust relationship with our consumer. And I take that very, very seriously. I would never do something that I know is not as good as it can be, if that makes sense. Or I'd be like, you know what? I suffered, but like, let's just let other people figure it out
No,
for
I
themselves.
love it. Like, I love the way you looked into the camera and you gave that. I mean, that's almost like I'm a believer, and I look at like First Corinthians 11:1, where it's just
Uh-huh.
like, follow me as I follow Christ. And not that you're saying like, hey, buy
Yeah.
this, but it's like, no, like, I'm telling you, like, if you're carrying something in the woods that has Argali on it, it's because I have put everything into making that the best it can be, and I trust it that it's not going to destroy your experience in the woods. I love the way that you just said that with conviction, and I'm like, let's go. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's real. Like, it's not
It is
just,
real.
it matters. And I love that it
Yeah.
matters that much to you that you can say that confidently and boldly, and not say that as like a sales pitch.
It ain't a sales pitch, man. It's genuine. It's genuine. And that's what I love about what I get to do. Right. So it's like, like, if you can't tell, like, I love this stuff, man. This is like, I have found my path by accident in this way. And it's like, yeah, I take it very seriously because, and I've always viewed that as also as like one of our core competencies as a brand. It's like, I'm not, we don't believe, not to say we always nail everything, we get everything perfect. We don't, but we're always listening to what our customers are saying. It's like, and evolving and taking that feedback and trying to make something better, faster, you know, and et cetera. But yeah, I do believe it. And I feel very strongly about that. And I don't understand a design philosophy where you're making something where it's like, yeah, this is good enough. Let's just get it out there in the world, let our customers deal with it. It's like, no, 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 no. Unacceptable. If you know there's a problem with something, you should not be putting it out in the world, in my humble opinion. And that's built into the ethos of our brand.
I hope that people listening today can catch that like fire from you. I hope they go and they watch some of the YouTube videos that you guys have created, because I think
Appreciate
they
that.
inspire people. You know, I hope they go to their website and look like, all right, if I'm going on this backcountry hunt and I'm making plans. I remember talking to you at the Western Hunt Expo going like, I had no idea you were coming out with the sleep system in a sleeping bag. I'm so bummed that I
All
just
good.
spent all
All
this
good.
money last year.
All good. Yeah. All good. We will always stay rooted in like what we do best, and it's still very important for me. Like I am very fortunate to get to go out and hunt a lot. It is harder and harder as our business gets bigger to find the time to do that, because I have a lot more responsibility than I used to. But it's still so important to our brand. It's still important for me to have that time where I get to like test things and think about gear. I was just telling somebody the other day that like our 8-person tent, I drew the first design out in the dirt. It's a true story. In camp, because I was like frustrated with an 8-person tent I was using. And I was like, this thing is just not the design here. The shape is just not what I would do. And I was like, well, what would I do? And I didn't have anything to draw with. So I drew it out in the dirt, and I used sticks to like kind of create a little structure. And then I took a photo of it. And that was like what I took home. And then I actually drew it out when I got home. But like those are the things. That's where the best ideas come from.
Yeah. And
They shouldn't come from a boardroom. Yeah.
Was sleeping with the quilt and freezing part of the inspiration for carrying a 2-pound stove? Did the hot tent already
Absolutely
design start before the quilt experiences, or was the quilt
No.
experience what led into the hot tent?
I was using hot tents at the time. I just didn't like some of the features and the designs behind what I was using at the time. I had used a bunch of different designs, and I just felt like there were some good parts of them, but I felt like the people that had designed, I'm like, I don't know how often the people that are making these are actually using them, because I'm using them all the time, and I can tell you what I like and what I don't like. And I actually I won't name the company, but I actually approached one company just to help them design something better, and they weren't interested. And I was like, totally fair. You don't have to listen to me, but I'm going to go make something that I think is better. And that was what like led us down the path of like, I'm like, if they're not going to listen, if they don't want to make the thing that I think is better, then I'm going to go make it, because I think it needs to exist.
I love that. Okay, now I don't know if your whitetail Midwest hunter, even your waterfowl hunter, has hung with us this late in the podcast, but just in case, if somebody's not a backcountry ounce counting hunter, do you guys have something that's like, okay, this is in our lineup that every hunter, no matter what part of the country, no matter what style of hunt you do, every hunter should have this either in their pack, or this is a piece of Argali gear that is probably the most universal? Like, what would that be in your camp? And maybe you're like, we kind of, our niche is backcountry hunting, so they do not apply.
No, that's a great question. And I do hunt in the mid. I actually hunt Oklahoma. I think we've talked about this a little bit. I hunt Oklahoma every year. We have a lot of customers who never come out west. So our bigger tents, like our 8-person and our 6-person tent, get used a lot by people that are hunting in the Midwest. So so keep those in mind. They're great base camp tents if you're hunting wherever you're hunting. They're just lighter and easier to pack around. They're easier to set up than like a traditional wall tent. But our knives and our game bags have universal appeal. And then our Kodiak belt, which is our belt knife sharpener in one. It doesn't matter where you're at, what you're doing. If you're wearing a belt and it also happens to be a very functional knife sharpener, that's helpful no matter what you're doing.
Yep. Every hunter needs a good knife.
Every hunter needs a good knife, and our knives are fantastic. Again, not to like toot our own drum, but they're world-class knives. They are as good as anything you can get. I think with some shapes and features that are fantastic. Even if you're not trying to cut ounces, they're very functional and effective. And again, we have a lot of whitetail hunters that use them, not in the backcountry, but just use them for their whitetail hunts wherever they might be in the Midwest or the East Coast.
Yeah, last year we did a series on just our knives, because I own a ton of different hunting knives, because I'm you're always tinkering, like, man, what don't you like about this? In the blade shape, the length of the blades, the weight, even like the handle. I've done some that are so skinny, thinking like I really want to shave, but then my hands are cramping while I'm quartering out an elk, because it's like it's too small. And finding that balance. And the Argali knife was one of the top 5 that we featured in that series, because it's just so well balanced. So like whether you're whitetail hunting, waterfowl hunting, turkey hunting, you know, or doing any type of big game, that's capable of taking down a moose, down to like if I wanted to use it on a rabbit, it's nimble in your hand. The blade retention or edge retention on it is phenomenal, but it's not too hard where you can't resharpen it on your own. You know, it's like
right. Yeah. Yep.
So absolutely love it. Well, Brad, it's been a pleasure recording with you.
Yeah, man, it's been good. It's gone by fast, but that means we had a good conversation. So I appreciate having me on.
You guys are one of the official partners now inside our Western Hunt League, where we are featuring kind of your backcountry field kit, which includes that game bag and a knife. I'm excited to officially have you guys in that space, and I appreciate you and the support that you're bringing to the HuntLeague community.
Yeah, proud to be a part of it, and I'm happy. I really love to see what you're building, Jared, and just honored to be a part of it.